Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Linda.
And I'm Leo. We're excited to talk with you today about something really important, conversational skills. This is a great topic because learning how to talk in English, not just study it, helps you sound more natural. It makes you feel confident when speaking to others.
Yes, conversational skills are what we use every day, right? When we meet someone new, when we're chatting with a friend, even when we're asking for help in a store, these skills are everywhere. But sometimes they are a little hard to learn, especially if you're just starting to speak English.
That's true. You might know the words, but it can be tricky to put them together in a real conversation. So, what are some important things about conversation? I think the first thing is to listen carefully.
Exactly. Many people think talking is the most important part of a conversation, but really, listening is just as important, if not more. When you listen carefully, you can understand the person better, and it helps you know what to say next.
Right. And you don't just listen to the words, you also listen to the way they say things. The tone of voice, the pauses, even small sounds like a or can tell you a lot. You learn what the other person feels or means.
Yes, that's a great point. And another important thing is asking questions. It's one of the easiest ways to keep a conversation going. When you ask someone about their day, their opinion, or how they feel, it shows that you care, and people like to talk about themselves.
I agree. Asking simple questions like, "How was your weekend?"
Exactly. And don't worry if you make mistakes. It's totally normal, and it's how you learn. If you don't understand something, you can always say, "I'm sorry, can you say that again?" Or "I didn't catch that, could you explain?"
Yes, no one will be upset if you ask for clarification. In fact, it shows that you are paying attention and that you want to understand. It's better to ask than to pretend you know what someone said when you're not sure.
Right. Now, let's talk about another important skill, giving responses. It's not just about asking questions. You also need to know how to respond in a conversation. Simple words like "really" or "that's interesting" can show you're involved.
Yes, or even using phrases like "I see" or "wow, I didn't know" that can keep the conversation alive. You don't have to give long answers every time. Just showing that you're interested is enough.
Absolutely. And here's another trick. Try to match the other person's energy. If they're excited, be excited with them. If they're serious, try to keep the tone calm. This helps build a connection between you and the person you're talking to.
That's a great tip. It's like you're dancing with words, right? You follow each other's pace, you make it feel natural. And when it feels natural, you stop worrying about your grammar or pronunciation, you're just focused on communicating.
Exactly. And when you're relaxed, the conversation flows better. So don't put too much pressure on yourself to be perfect. No one speaks perfectly all the time, even native speakers. It's more important to keep the conversation going.
Yes, another useful tip is using body language. Even though we're talking about conversational skills with words, body language also plays a big role. When you nod your head or make eye contact, it shows that you are engaged in the conversation.
That's so true. Sometimes, even a smile or a small laugh can make the other person feel more comfortable. It's like you're saying, "I'm with you, I understand," without even using words, and it helps break the ice.
Exactly, and if you're talking face-to-face, standing or sitting in a relaxed way, not crossing your arms, helps too. It shows that you're open to talking. You want to create a friendly space for conversation.
Yes, that's really important, especially when you're meeting someone for the first time or speaking in a professional setting. You want to seem approachable and easy to talk to. Your body language can really make a difference in how people see you.
And speaking of professional settings, let's not forget about how conversational skills can be useful at work. If you're speaking English at your job, being able to have smooth, friendly conversations with your co-workers or boss can really help you.
Definitely, knowing how to have a good conversation can help build relationships with your colleagues, and it can even help you in job interviews. Employers often look for people who are good at communicating because it's such an important skill in any job.
Right. In fact, even if you don't have perfect English, being able to communicate well can make a big difference. People are more likely to be patient with your language learning if they see that you're trying to connect with them.
Exactly. So the key here is to be confident, even if you make mistakes. Don't worry too much about grammar when you're in a conversation. Focus on the message you want to share, and the rest will come with practice.
That's so true, and one last tip for now: practice. The more you speak, the easier it gets. Find a language partner, join a group, or even talk to yourself in English. Practicing every day helps build your confidence and skills.
Yes, and remember, every conversation is a chance to learn something new. Whether it's a new word, a new phrase, or just getting better at understanding people, you are always improving.
That's right. So let's keep working on these skills, and soon you'll see how much easier it is to talk in English.
That's right.
Now that we've talked about listening, asking questions, and giving responses, let's move on to something that's just as important: speaking with confidence. Confidence in conversation is key, especially when you're learning a new language like English. But how can you become more confident?
I think the first step is not being afraid to speak. It's normal to feel nervous, but the more you practice, the easier it gets. You don't need to wait until your English is perfect to start having conversations. The more you talk, the more natural it will feel.
Yes, it's like exercising. The more you practice speaking, the stronger your skills become. And here's the thing: most people are understanding. They know you're learning, and they won't judge you for making mistakes. So don't worry about that. Just focus on communicating.
Exactly. And if you don't know a word, it's okay. You can always use simple words to explain what you mean. For example, if you can't remember the word restaurant, you can say a place where you eat food. The other person will understand, and that's the most important thing.
Right. It's all about finding a way to express yourself. And here's a tip: don't rush. Speaking slowly can actually help you feel more confident. When you slow down, you have more time to think about what you want to say, and it helps the other person understand you better too.
That's a great point. Speaking slowly also shows that you're calm and confident. You don't need to speak fast to sound like a native speaker. In fact, many native speakers appreciate when people speak clearly and take their time.
Yes, clear and simple is always better than fast and unclear. And here's another thing that helps with confidence: practice phrases that you can use in different situations. For example, you can learn how to greet someone, ask for directions, or order food at a restaurant. If you know a few common phrases well, you'll feel more prepared in conversations.
Absolutely. You don't need to know every word in English to have a good conversation. Start with the basics and build from there. You can even write down some phrases and practice them before you need to use them. That way, when the time comes, you'll feel ready.
Yes, and don't forget about pronunciation. Sometimes learners feel shy because they're worried about their accent. But accents are a natural part of learning a new language, and it's okay to have one. The important thing is to speak clearly, not perfectly.
That's such a good reminder. Everyone has an accent when they're learning a language. What's important is that people can understand you. And if you're not sure how to pronounce a word, don't be afraid to ask. You can say something like, "Can you help me with this word?" Or "How do you say this?"
Exactly. Asking for help shows that you're trying to improve, and people appreciate that. And over time, the more you listen to English, the more natural your pronunciation will become. So listen to English conversations, podcasts, or even music. It's a fun way to improve your speaking and listening skills.
Yes, and that brings us to another part of conversational skills: learning how to start a conversation. Sometimes it can be a bit scary to begin talking to someone, especially if you don't know them very well. But there are some easy ways to start.
One simple way is to give a compliment or ask a friendly question. For example, you can say, "I like your shoes. Where did you get them?" Or "How is your day going?" These small questions are great because they open up the conversation without feeling too difficult.
Yes, and you don't have to start with anything big. Even saying something like "nice weather today" or "it's really cold, isn't it?" can help break the ice. Once the other person responds, you can follow up with more questions, and the conversation will flow from there.
Exactly, and remember, people usually enjoy talking about themselves, so don't be afraid to ask about their hobbies, their work, or their plans for the weekend. It's an easy way to keep the conversation going.
Yes, people appreciate when you show interest in them. And if you ever feel stuck and don't know what to say next, just ask another question. It's better to ask questions than to leave long, awkward silences.
Right, but don't worry if there's a short silence. That's normal in conversations, especially when you're still learning. Just take a deep breath, think of something to say, and keep going. The other person will usually help keep the conversation moving too.
That's a good point. Conversations are a two-way street. You don't have to do all the talking. Let the other person share their thoughts. And you can respond with simple phrases like "that's interesting" or "I didn't know that."
Exactly, and don't be afraid to show your personality. If you like something, say so. If you're surprised or happy, show it. Conversation is not just about the words, it's also about your feelings and reactions. This makes the conversation more lively and real.
Yes, being yourself makes the conversation more natural. And when you're relaxed and enjoying the conversation, the other person will feel more comfortable too. It's all about creating a positive connection.
Absolutely. And one last thing to remember about confidence, mistakes are part of the learning process. Every time you make a mistake, you're getting better. Don't let the fear of mistakes stop you from speaking.
Exactly. The more you speak, the more you'll improve. It's all about practice, patience, and staying positive. You're on a journey, and every conversation helps you get better.
Yes, so just keep practicing, stay confident, and soon you'll notice big changes in your conversational skills. It's all about taking small steps and enjoying the process.
That's right. Let's keep exploring how we can make conversations even better.
Okay.
And we've talked about confidence, starting conversations, and asking questions. Let's focus on something else that's really important: body language and tone of voice. These are a big part of communication, even though they're not spoken words.
That's so true. Sometimes your body language says more than your words. For example, if you're talking to someone but you're not looking at them, it can seem like you're not interested, even if you are. So, making eye contact is really important in conversations.
Yes, eye contact shows that you're listening and that you care about what the other person is saying. But don't worry, you don't need to stare. Just looking at the person from time to time is enough to show you're engaged.
Another part of body language is smiling. A simple smile can make you seem more friendly and approachable. It helps the conversation feel relaxed and positive.
Exactly. Smiling is a universal way of saying, "I'm happy to talk to you," and when the other person sees you smiling, they usually feel more comfortable too. It creates a good atmosphere for conversation.
And it's not just about smiling or eye contact. The way you stand or sit can also send a message. If you're standing with your arms crossed or sitting hunched over, you might seem closed off, even if you're interested in the conversation. Try to keep an open posture, like keeping your arms relaxed or leaning slightly toward the person. This shows that you're engaged and ready to listen.
That's a great point. An open posture makes the conversation feel welcoming. And let's not forget about tone of voice. How we say something can be just as important as what we say. If you speak in a friendly, calm tone, the person you're talking to will feel comfortable. But if your tone is too serious or too loud, it might make the conversation feel tense.
Yes, tone of voice can really change the meaning of your words. Even a simple sentence like, "How are you?" can sound different depending on your tone. If you ask with a warm and friendly tone, it feels like you really care about the answer. But if you ask with a flat or rushed tone, it might seem like you're not really interested.
Exactly. So, when you're having a conversation, try to match your tone to the situation. If it's a casual chat with a friend, you can keep it light and friendly. But if someone is sharing something serious, it's better to use a calm and understanding tone.
That's a good tip. It helps to listen to how native speakers use their tone in different situations. For example, when you watch movies or listen to English speakers, notice how their voices change when they're happy, sad, or excited. This can help you learn how to use tone in your own conversations.
Yes, that's such a helpful way to improve. And let's talk a little about gestures. These are the small movements we make when we're speaking, like nodding or using our hands to explain something. Gestures can make what you're saying clearer and more engaging.
Right. For example, if someone is talking and you nod your head, it shows that you're following along and understand what they're saying. It's a simple way to stay connected in the conversation without interrupting.
Yes, and sometimes gestures can help explain a word you don't know. If you can't think of the word for umbrella, you can point up or pretend to hold one, and the other person will probably understand what you mean.
That's a great trick. Gestures can really help, especially when you're still learning new vocabulary. And another thing, remember to pay attention to the other person's body language too. If they're smiling or nodding, it's a good sign that they're enjoying the conversation. But if they seem distracted or are looking away, maybe it's time to ask them a question or switch topics to keep them interested.
That's a good observation. Conversations are not just about talking. They're about noticing the other person's reactions too. This helps you keep the conversation balanced and interesting for both people.
Exactly, it's a two-way street, and sometimes it's okay to have short pauses in a conversation. You don't have to talk non-stop. Pauses give both people time to think and reflect. Just like we talked about before, silence isn't something to be afraid of. It's part of the natural flow of conversation.
Yes, silence can actually be helpful. It gives you time to process what's being said and plan your response. And if you ever feel like the conversation is slowing down, you can always ask a follow-up question to keep it going.
Good point. Follow-up questions show that you're interested in what the other person is saying. For example, if someone tells you about their weekend, you can ask, "What did you enjoy the most?" Or, "How did that make you feel?" These kinds of questions help deepen the conversation and make it more meaningful.
Yes, and meaningful conversations are often the best ones. They help you connect with people on a deeper level, and that's really what good communication is all about. It's not just about exchanging words. It's about understanding and sharing experiences.
That's right. So, to recap, we've talked about listening, asking questions, being confident, using body language and tone, and how to start and continue conversations. These are all key skills that will help you improve your English and feel more comfortable speaking with others.
Exactly. And remember, like we said earlier, it's okay to make mistakes. Every conversation is a chance to learn and get better. So don't be afraid to practice, try new phrases, and enjoy the process.
Yes, the more you practice, the more natural it will feel. And you'll start to notice your conversations getting smoother and more enjoyable.
We hope this podcast has given you some useful tips and ideas to help you improve your conversational skills in English. Just keep practicing, stay positive, and remember that every conversation is an opportunity to grow.
Absolutely. Keep talking, keep learning, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Thank you for listening.
Goodbye.